I'm Bonnie. Welcome to Tarot with Bonnie and Peter, where we take the mystery out of the tarot and help you bring this ancient practice into everyday life. In this podcast, we'll talk about life, tarot, and everything in between. So grab your tarot deck, get comfortable, and start your journey to tarot with Bonnie and Peter. Welcome to Tarot with Bonnie and Peter. I'm Bonnie, and today I have the absolute pleasure of introducing a guest. Her name is Alison DeNicola, and I got to meet Alison personally. I attended one of her workshops, and she is a beautiful soul. She has so much amazing positive energy, and I cannot contain my excitement to have her on the show today. So I'm going to formally introduce Alison, and I'm going to read her bio because it's amazing and I don't want to miss anything. So Alison DeNicola is a yoga and meditation teacher, energy healer, retreat leader, and award-winning author. She began her spiritual path over 20 years ago with the study of tarot, yoga, meditation, and hypnotherapy. She's continued to expand and explore through inspirational writing and other mind-body healing practices, which include shamanic, sound, chakra, and angelic healing work. Alison is the author of 6 inspirational card deck and book sets, including the award-winning Mudras for Awakening the Energy Body and Mudras for Awakening the 5 Elements, which of course I own both of them. She's the host of Beyond the Cards podcast for US Games and leads national and international intentional travel retreats to sacred sites for inspiration and awakening. You can connect with her on her website, AlisonDeNicola.com, on Facebook at Alison DeNicola, or Facebook Mudras for Awakening the Energy Body. She's also on Instagram at Alison DeNicola, and I will include all of this in our show notes. So thank you, Alison, for being on our show. We're so excited to have you.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, Bonnie and Peter. It's a pleasure to be here. And just excited to be here and chat with you guys.
Yeah, we're thrilled, and I have to echo Bonnie's excitement as well as of having you here. I want to ask, actually, if I can, we often, Bonnie and I actually started this podcast by talking about our journey to the tarot, and Bonnie had said that 20 years ago, your, I guess, origin story included the tarot and meditation and yoga and hypnotherapy. So could you talk to us a little bit about what brought you there? What kind of brought you to the world of tarot and perhaps those interconnected modalities as well? Would really be interested.
Sure. So it's an interesting story when you look back, right? Your creation story or your path. And over 20 years ago, almost 22 years ago, my father got ill very suddenly. I was really close to him. And within 8 weeks, it went from like him having a headache to stage 5 cancer, and he passed away. It was very rapid. My kids were young. I had 2 young boys, and I was, I was really grieving. I was really like, there's got to be more than this. So that was like that pivotal moment. People go through like a traumatic event. And so for me, the first thing I did was I signed up for a tarot class at the local high school. Right. And it was like 20 suburban moms in there with the Rider-Waite deck. And this is a totally true story. And, started to uncover this, symbol connection to symbolism, to color, to numerology, all of these things that I felt I knew, but I didn't know. I couldn't remember them. I was like, there's somewhere in me that knows this. And it was kind of frustrating, honestly. Because like most adults, you go through your course of study and your higher education, all those things. And I thought, how could I not know about this? And so that was really like step one. I went off with my cards after, attending the class for, 6 or 8 weeks. And I started to do readings for people. Pretty much everybody or anybody who came in my path, I would be like, let me read your cards. And then I learned a hard lesson about doing that, right? It's not usually a good idea to read cards like at a dinner party or, in mixed groups of people where the truth comes out, right? The minute you start to read the cards, it's really hard to suppress the truth. And that's why I love the tarot. It's such a personal transformational tool. That's really how I see it. And so that really tempered my reading. It took me a while to figure that out, and I had, kind of recalibrate. And so I went on. So that kind of led me to, the tarot started to lead me to other things, Reiki training, Thai yoga, massage, yoga. I mean, I was going to yoga class. I was already a yoga student. I did my first yoga training that led me to, attending and going to Kripalu. I started to go there back in like 2004, 2005. And then two big things happened for me. So about 5 years after that first tarot class, and I was kind of immersed going to meditation circles, and it's really in a learning phase. My kids were getting older, and I really was kind of like, I want to be doing something during the day. I can't just go to the gym and go food shopping every day. I mean, now I'd love to go back, right? What was I thinking? That was a great world, but go to the gym, go food shopping, take care of business, go pick my kids up. And I felt like I wanted to do some part-time work. And there was a job ad at that time on Craigslist, of all things, and it was for a part-time salesperson in Stamford. That's where I lived, Stamford, Connecticut. And it said games company. And I didn't really put it together until I showed up there for the interview. I pulled in the parking lot, and it was US Game Systems, who was the publisher of the Rider-Waite Tarot that I had been reading for 5 years. And I was like, at one of those light bulb moments, oh, the publisher of the tarot deck I'm using is right here in my town. I mean, honestly, I had no idea how to explain any of that. That I wasn't aware of it, that I wasn't even, consciously going down that road. So, needless to say, it was a very successful interview with Stuart Kaplan, my boss, who has since passed, but was a great mentor for me. And I went to work at US Games in 2008 as a part-time salesperson. And I walked into the offices that held the largest tarot collection in the world. That's what he had been collecting for almost, 30, 40 years. That was completely filled in that office. So aside from just learning how to speak about the tarot, how to sell the tarot to customers, I was like absorbing all this esoteric information. Every time I would leave there, I would go home, and I would be like, I don't know how I know this, but now I know about this and Hermeticism and, all different kinds of discipline, the Golden Dawn Society. And so it was a very crash course into the world of tarot for me. So that's kind of how it all got started.
Wow. So
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
How did you not buy every single I'm like, if I worked there, I probably would have bought everything.
Yeah, it was hard. Walking into the warehouse at US Games is really thrilling. Honestly, it's really exciting, just literally every deck on the shelves. And I was very naive in a way when I came in, because I thought everybody was reading and having their spiritual experience there. And then I was quickly disappointed to find out that everybody was just like regular folks, seriously talented, many of them, but just regular people. And I thought, well, I thought this was going to be like a spiritual church every day that I came to. What's going on here? Why are we not, doing each other's cards and things like that? But when you're working in, on the earth plane, it's really, we really need to be grounded. And so nothing would ever get done, is what I'm trying to say, if everybody was kind of up here. And so I learned very quickly that there was a reason why people were so grounded, or so just methodical, or just looking at the work as work, with appreciation for what they were working on, but also working. Yeah. So I did collect a lot of decks, like right out of the box.
And you mentioned the name. I don't know if I made a visible response when you mentioned the name Stuart Kaplan, but as an absolute history or tarot history nerd, of course I forgot that he would have been the head of US Games. And for our listeners who are unfamiliar, but he's also the author of a 4-volume set called The History of Tarot, which you can ever get your hands on it. I have the first volume in hardcover, and the other three I've got digitally. But it basically covers anything and everything you would ever want to know in tarot. So when you said that, I was like, oh, right, of course, of course. What a wealth of
Yeah,
information he would have been as
yeah.
well to have known him. So
So
yeah.
it was such an honor to work for him. But at that time, I didn't really know he was so exciting. I was like, oh, I like him. He's like Uncle Stewart. He reminded me of a family member. He could have been, he was about the same age as my dad. So, I had that feeling with him. He was very, very smart, um, just on every level. I mean, about creativity, about art, about business. He was so engaging, and he told amazing stories, and then he would be like, the Jewish mother who was taking care of you. Here, let me get you some. Did you eat today? You're like, I'm good. And so he just had all of these incredible qualities, that all of us really appreciated, having in our life. And then also here we are in like this guy who created tarot for the mainstream, right? He went to the Nuremberg Toy Fair in 1969, and he found the Swiss JJ deck, which was just a collector because he was collecting items. He bought it for his kids. He thought it was fascinating. He brought it back, and that really started the whole thing. Then he bought the rights to it, and he printed it in the U.S. And then he slowly started to acquire the rights to lots of different tarot decks and historical decks and things like that. So I was privileged to be in that company and also to learn from him about, the history of tarot and, all of the other things that were to come at that point. That was 2008. Yeah.
What
And then so
amazing. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, it's okay. So simultaneously, while I was working there, raising my family, doing my things, I was doing yoga trainings and meditation trainings, and I was, so that was like my personal development was going in that direction. And honestly, for a while I was kind of like, I don't really know why I'm here. I would always say to them, I don't really know why I'm here. Like I know I love the tarot and all the stuff, but what am I doing here? Because I was doing a sales job, I left and I came back. I left for a year. My husband opened a business and he needed my help. And then when he was set, I went back and I became the, national, sales and marketing manager, and I managed all of the brokers. So it was a very business oriented job that I had, was managing salespeople and, and big accounts, Barnes and Noble and things like that. And, so it was so completely opposite of the spiritual, right? It was just like, I want these decks in this store.
Yeah.
But I
And
think from an underlying perspective, like because you had this love of tarot and this knowledge, and then you were in a position to sort of promote that and to want to get that into the hands of other people, you were meant to be in that job rather than this is just a job and this is what I do. It was also coming from this place of your love of tarot and your love of all of these practices. So I think that we may look at it as just a job, but I don't know that anybody could have done that job like you did it or made that impact that you could have made. So,
oh yeah, 100%. It was total divine destiny. There was no other way. But I don't want to romanticize sometimes, and this is the thing I always kind of teach my students, that sometimes synchronicities, you have to have a little faith. You have to
mhm.
let the universe deliver. And in those early days when I was learning and on this thing, I was very impatient about everything. Like I want it like yesterday. I want this to happen yet. Does anyone relate to that? I want to do this and I want it to happen yesterday. So um well, I knew I was learning and I was in this amazing company and all that stuff. I kind of was like, what is my purpose? My purpose
Mhm.
cannot be to, wrangle up these, outside sales folks. No offense to any of them who, if they hear you, if they hear this, which I enjoyed all of them, until about 2013. And
Mhm.
that's when things changed for me. And there's an opportunity to write a deck, and one of my coworkers, Lynn, who's the editor and publicist, said, "Why doesn't Allison write this deck?" And it was a deck. We needed a deck about mudras. And Stuart came into my office and he goes, "Do you want to write the mudra deck?" And it was like one of those light bulb moments, like I felt like a cartoon character. I had And I was like, yes, I do want to write the deck about mudras. And there was no outline. It was just like, here, this is an idea. You come up with the idea, you come up with the concept, you find the artist, but we're going to give you the chance to do that. And that was like the big change. And that's when I discovered really what I was doing there.
Mm,
Wow.
So that
that's
took a
amazing.
few years. Yeah.
So I have that. That's the chakra one, right? Like I have that.
Bonnie
Yeah.
goes
The
to the
purple.
magic, the
Yeah.
magic
Bonnie
shelf of
goes to
decks.
the.
Is that the
Yes,
first one?
that's it. That's it. Yeah.
Okay, so this is Mudras for Awakening the Energy Body deck and book set. So I can honestly say that when I've taught yoga classes in the past, I use your Mudra books. Your decks. I use this one, and then I have the one with the 5 elements. And for any yoga teachers that are listening, if you need that little bit of, that thing that you do at the beginning of class where we're grounding people and getting them centered, and you want to introduce a mudra, these are amazing because it's a picture, there's description on the back. One of the decks takes you through a little practice that you can do with your students. So these are amazing.
Thanks.
Just
Um,
to, yeah, to,
yeah, I was inspired to do something that was unique. And so I was teaching at the time. And my tendency would be to find someone else to do something, right? I would be like, why don't you get this person to do it? Why don't you get that person to do it? And then it was like a big change for me to say, no, I'm going to do it. And it was a big undertaking, to map out something that hadn't been done before, right? I didn't really have a framework to work on. I had to create that. How do I want it to be laid out? What is my goal for the deck? How do I want people to use it? What do I want people to receive? Laymen, from people that don't know anything to teachers, as a teaching tool. And it was a great, honestly, first project that, really changed my life, changed the way I had to see myself, because it started to call myself an author. And I really had that appreciation for the other authors and creators that were submitting their products into US Games, because I realized how much work, effort, and energy, and love, creative love goes into these projects. So
and how hard is that to do that when you're working full time and creating a deck? Right? Because it's like you're giving birth to something and that takes a long time. So how do you sort of balance that?
well, with that deck, I mapped it out. The idea came right to me. The name was the first thing that came to me. I knew what it was going to be. I had been studying the chakras for several years, with different teachers, like Anna Day Judith, and people that were really into that. Gone on immersions and work, extended workshops and things. So I was really familiar with the topic. I was fairly familiar with the mudras, and then I mapped it all out, and I found Sabina right away. We had like this instant connection. And then I procrastinated for like ever. I was just like, I did anything but write that deck. I was just like, I got to go to the store. I'm going to go take a walk. I'm going out to lunch with my friend. I would have Mondays off, and that would be supposed to be my writing day, but I was not doing anything. And then finally, I had to really face that. What was the fear, And so for many of the listeners, if you're working on creative projects, or you want to do your podcast or any of these things, there is always like a wall of fear that you have to face, right? About maybe no one will like it. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I'm not ready. Maybe it's not the right time. You could come up with all the different things that we all have in common. I pretty much had all of those. I was just like, why me? Those kinds of things. And so I had to really examine that and work through it. And I did, pretty well. And through my own meditation and different practices and things like that. And then I said, okay, Monday's my writing day. I'm going to write this deck on Mondays. And then it snowed every Monday for like 12 weeks. Honestly, snowed every Monday, 12 weeks. The divine stepped in and was like, you are doing this work. And I worked on that for 3 months straight on the Mondays, and then on other days, because once you get into doing something, then you just want to get back to it and do it. And then it was finished. The writing was finished, and Sabina had done all the painting, and it all came together. And then it came to life. And then, of course, once something comes to life, like a tarot deck or an oracle or this deck, um, it gets to go out in the world and people get to discover it. So yeah, it was really fun.
Wow, what a process as well. So thank you for sharing that. I'd like to ask just a related question
Sure.
because you had talked about kind of being stuck and then using, I think what you said you use tarot and other modalities to kind of move you forward. And part of the purpose when Bonnie and I said we were going to do this podcast, we wanted to sort of make the tarot approachable for everyone in everyday practice. So, any suggestions for people who are looking at integrating either tarot or oracle into their everyday practice but are struggling to get there?
Absolutely. So same as I shared about the writing process or having to carve out time, you making something sustainable and daily-ish. I think daily is good,
I
but
love
not everybody
daily-ish. That's
daily-ish is good. So so my practice was and is still now that every morning I take about 5 minutes. It's not and some mornings I have a lot more time. So I can take a half hour, some mornings. But every morning I take 5 minutes to sit and center myself, to do a little bit of breath work, to ask my cards, what do I need to know today? And the card decks have varied over the years. I've pulled a medicine card from the Native American medicine card deck, Jamie Sams and David Carson, every day for the past 15 years, probably. That really speaks to me, that the animal messengers, the animal medicine. And then I do a 4 card spread with my tarot to see, just get an overall feeling of what the potential is for today. What do I need to know about? What do I need to be aware of? And that's basically how I started to really learn tarot, was to pull a card a day and to say, how is this going to unfold in my day? And I can tell you that, we all have that same feeling when we pull like a tower or something where we're like, oh, great,
There we go. Here's
sometimes
the
I,
Ten of
yeah,
Swords again.
yeah, the Ten of Swords. What's going to happen today? But what's really interesting is that when you look back at it, it's like, oh yeah, this is exactly what happened. And I had the foreknowledge to be prepared, to be, to say, okay, this is a potential for today. How am I going to react? How am I going to hold myself? How am I going to deal? And I just feel like when you have that advanced knowledge, you just are in awareness, you have a much better opportunity to not be reactive, to be, to have the actions that are necessary. So I think it's just a vital tool, honestly.
Right.
I
So
love
that would
that.
be my suggestion, carve out some time.
Done.
I think the morning's a good time, but some folks have to rush off to work
Mhm. Yeah.
and do that. So you could get a little pocket deck and bring it to your office. You could do a mudra and you could pull your card.
Right. Yeah.
That's
Ooh,
another.
tell me, Kate.
Oh, here we go.
So what so just would you pick like one of the Mudra cards to see what Mudra you would do and then pull a tarot card from that?
You could do that, but I very often think most of us need grounding.
Hmm.
That's just a basic thing. So, when you sit and take a breath, close your eyes and take a breath, you're really grounding yourself, right? You're coming into the physical body. It's really easy, especially today with the technology and everything. It's really easy to be up here in air and ether all the time, like, spinning around in the thoughts, in the thoughts. We've got to be, we're here to be in these bodies, right, on the earth. And that's how we walk it forward. So it's always good to come to grounding. So any of the grounding mudras, this one is Adi Mudra with the thumbs on the inside, can be really calming and grounding, or Prithvi Mudra. So I would pick any of the grounding mudras, either earth element or the root chakra. That's a good way to start. And then, when I was at US Games, I always had cards on my deck, on my desk, so I could just do my card reading there. But you certainly could have a little card deck in your drawer at work if you were, undercover kind of thing. You don't want anyone to know, and take a moment to do that. So I think wherever it feels comfortable to do it, you just weave it into into your routine, right? Just like getting your coffee or, taking a moment to, map out your day. I feel like using the cards is a really good thing to integrate into that.
I love that.
Yes.
So you mentioned Oracle and tarot. So I started my journey. Well, I got a tarot deck when I was a teenager, but I didn't sort of continue down the tarot path and then became enamored with Oracle cards. So I kind of started with Oracle and then found my way to tarot, but I'm fascinated by the exploration of using both of them. So you said that you pull an oracle card from a spirit animal deck, I think you said, and then you do your tarot spread. So I guess a couple of questions, maybe explaining the difference between oracle decks and tarot decks, and then how can you use both of those in your practice if you feel called to that? What trips me up about oracle is I feel like I always have to go to the book. It's hard for me to read the oracle card intuitively. And I think that's why I liked tarot because I could understand the system and then I was able to talk about it. But by doing that, it's helping me to read Oracle a little bit better. I'm sort of letting my guard down and seeing that. But then I really love to see what the deck creator had to say about that. So, how, like, giving us some advice is how to sort of merge those two, or how can we use Oracle in that way?
Yeah, well, the tarot and the oracle are perfectly paired. It's a perfect union to have them. The tarot, as you mentioned, is a system, right? Generally 78 cards, but it could be anything, whatever the creator decides. And it originated out of playing cards. It actually originated out of Italian cards called tarocchi, and then, evolved over time, and then, came out of that 54 piece playing card deck, to have the archetypes. So the suits of tarot are the suits of the playing cards, right? That the follow along with that. And then of course tarot added the archetypes that came in about 100, 125 years ago. And those archetypes really give us, symbolism and messaging, just as you said, you understand it, right? We know what the archetypes of humanity are. Once we learn the system, it's easier to read and to read intuitively. The oracle decks are really personal, right, and subjective. So if the oracle decks don't spell out a message, generally, unless you're highly visually intuitive, you'll go to the book. Just let you trust yourself to come into what this message is. But I think what I do is I rotate different decks in based on how I'm feeling and what I want to know about,
Mhm.
and it just gives another layer of messaging right beyond the tarot. So, for instance, this is one of my decks that I just happen to have right here.
Oh, like this
The
one on my desk?
oh, the infinite wisdom of the chakras. And so, as I said, I had done a lot of chakra study and work, and then I did the Mudra deck, and I was like, I really would like to have a chakra deck that I could find out, like, what energy center am I working in? What do I need to know about? And so these cards actually have a message. They have image and number, and then title. So this was wolf. I just pulled this one, number 28, the wolf communication. They're coded on the bottom. So the blue is the throat chakra, and notice your ability to convey ideas through words and expression. So I felt really passionately about having a message on the card, because I feel like when you're using oracles, um, people don't really want to always have to go to the book, or maybe they don't have time to go to the book. And I like to do a lot of things with groups. And if the whole group cannot start reading the messages. I mean, you'd be there for like days.
Mhm.
So one of my things when I'm picking Oracle deck to use other than my own is I like to have messaging available on the card,
Mhm.
and that really helps me. The other thing is just if the topic really speaks to you. So maybe you want to get some advice from the goddess energy. So you might pick a goddess deck, or you feel akin to the animals. I find that especially in mixed groups of people, men um, and women both feel like nature really speaks to them. So using animal messengers can be a good thing to use. And then I have a lot of specialty decks that are near and dear to my heart. There's one, it's not a US Games deck, it's a rock pool. It's called the Mist of Avalon because I've been traveling to Glastonbury a lot, and I've been connecting with the energies there, of the goddess and Merlin and King Arthur and all of that. And so that deck speaks to me. And I think what I can say to all of the listeners is that by using oracles, you have an ability to learn about a topic more in depth because as you work with it more and more and understand what does this mean for me? Like, what is the Torah mean? You have an ability to connect to this topic in a more experiential way than if you just read a book and then put the book on the shelf. So it's just like it's a very intense learning tool. That's my feeling about it. Helps us to explore those topics more deeply. Did that answer the question?
Yes.
Yes. And thank you. Because as Bonnie knows, I'm probably more of a tarot purist and have been reluctant to go towards the Oracle deck, but your explanation has really helped me, especially the idea of finding a topic that resonates with you and then giving you the ability to be able to learn a little bit more deeply about that topic. For me, that was an entry point that really resonated with me because that learning something new is something that's important. So if I start buying multiple Oracle decks, I have you to blame now.
It's my fault.
It's gonna be your fault. No, that was like I said, as somebody who is not particularly familiar with a lot of Oracle decks, I really appreciated that explanation. So thank you for that. Thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome, for sure.
And
And
it can, oh, sorry.
I just think there's so many amazing things out there right now. And so to me, it's always like the immediate of like, oh, I love that. Look, I want to look at that. I want to touch it. I want to feel it. Or, I want to know more about that. It's always a good indicator, that might be for me.
Right. And it is a good entry point because the one thing I find, as you mentioned, is the tarot is a system, right? There's 78 cards, more or less. I think of some of the decks that have 80, but they're always in and around that structure, and they've got four suits and they've got the majors. But whereas an oracle deck, when you stand in front of the shelf at your favorite, esoteric shop, and you look at oracle decks, you get one of these moments because it can be exceptionally overwhelming. Whereas, now I'm going to go in and think, okay, what topic appeals to me? What topic resonates with me? And look at it that way. That's where I've found it's like, oh my goodness, there's cards about the moon and about chakra, and there's, animal totems and, Native American deck, goddess decks. There's everything, the deck of the archetypes, all. And I don't know Oracle decks, and I've named half a dozen off the top of my head. So standing in front of a wall where, the choice is almost overwhelming now at least gives me a starting point. So we'll see.
Awesome. Yeah.
Good luck, Peter.
I know.
I was thinking
Good
that.
luck. Good luck. I'm gonna have to hide my wallet now every time I go somewhere. So.
For sure. So you mentioned earlier about yoga and tarot and how, and also like using tarot in everyday life, even with oracle cards. So a lot of times yoga teachers, or we go to workshops or retreats, and quite often there'll be a card for us, and it's quite often an oracle card with a message on it. So I love that you were talking about that. Can you talk about the infusion or the fusion, I guess, of tarot and yoga together? Like, how can we incorporate those two into a practice? Just so, because I think sometimes when we think about the tarot, we just think about like readings but it's so much more than that, and we can incorporate it in so many different ways in our life. And using yoga, and even, we can bring meditation into that, as that's a big part of yoga. Like, how can we merge those two together? How can we use them together? Because you're so good at this.
I mean, can we have a whole other hour?
I know. We're going to have you back, Alison. I said there's too many questions that I want to ask you.
So I think it's, I think what's really important, or, really what makes it a dramatic, merging, is that, just as I said, yoga is a somatic experience, right? And so the same as grounding and pulling a card, it's like we want to be in the physical realm so that we can embody the energies. because the mind, the mind, and I'm talking about the brain mind, the thinking mind, is so powerful and, able to be all over the place. But when we really bring it into the physical form is when we really understand things, right?
Mhm.
Well, so that was my idea when I created the workshop, Awaken Inner Magic. And that was back in like 2000, and I think it was 2018, the first time that Sasha and I did that together at Kripalu. And we really wanted to bring, in a short format, the archetypes and the suits into, a yoga practice so that people could really feel it, like on a visceral level, on a physical level. So the archetypes really match well with a lot of the asanas, a lot of standing poses and seated poses and different things. And the suits are the elements. And we know in yoga practice that the elements are part of yoga, right? Earth, water, fire, air. And that's what the suits are in tarot. So it's very easy to kind of connect with that in that way. And then, of course, if we add the meditation level, whether it's guided imagery, and we take a journey with the magician, or we take a journey into the high priestess, we have this incredible ability to use, the subconscious mind to really connect with this deeper awareness or awakening, and ask these archetypes. And this is my belief: we can really connect with these archetypes to help us. What do I need to know? How can I be the high priestess in my life? How can I be the magician in my life? What do I need to know about justice and how I can find balance and equilibrium in my life? And so it becomes a really, really incredible practice and process to go into that. So that's a short answer. And then, of course, the queens and the kings of, I think, and all of the court cards can be great messengers and allies. So if you wanted to meditate on each of the queens and say, the Queen of Wands, I want to take action. I want to take inspired action. Help me to see the path ahead. So these are all personal practices or group practices that can be really powerful for people, and all under the umbrella of yoga practice, because we're merging that science of yoga, which is really ancient wisdom from the East, right? The ancient yogis knew that the mind body practices were the most powerful, and then we're taking this beautiful self-realization tool known as the tarot, which is a lot about our own psychology and psyche and our own, metaphorical journey through the fool's journey.
Mm-hmm.
And we're merging it together, and like, wow. Then you come out and you're like, wow, now what am I going to do? Like, that's so amazing. I want to do that every day. Right. But then, of course, we're humans and we got to bring it home, bring it into your life, and then see how that starts to unfold in your life. So, I feel very passionate about it, as you can tell. I just get very excited and charged up.
That's good.
And
we're happy to have people that are passionate about their tarot and tarot related practices on the podcast, right? That's nothing wrong with that. Thank you.
Yeah. So I had the pleasure of being at your immersion workshop at Kripalu this past summer with you and Sasha Graham. And literally I kept pinching myself because I'm like, these are all of the things that I love most in my life, other, of course, than my family and my friends. But it's like merging tarot and yoga nidra and all of these things. I'm like, it's all here in one workshop. How did I manifest this? So it was such a treat for me, and to be able to receive that. So it was beautiful. And that's how I got to know you, Alison, and and realized that we were at the same training. So when I went for my Yoga Nidra certification back in 2017, Alison was one of the coordinators helping to facilitate the training, and I didn't even know that. So another amazing synchronicity. So I knew I was in the right spot.
all roads lead back, right? All roads lead back to the place. Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, so we sort of like to we're coming up to almost an hour now, and I want to be mindful of your time, but We at the end of our episodes, we like to draw a card and then describe our insights about the card. So Peter and I, we draw a tarot card, but we're going to invite you if you want to participate. You can either pull a tarot card, you can pull one of your beautiful oracle cards. So we'll let you decide what you want to do. But is how does that sound, Allison? Are you
Sure,
okay with
it sounds great. Yeah.
Yeah. And the premise is we've always wanted this, at least an element of this podcast, to be a learning experience for people, but we didn't want to, be okay. This episode we're going to talk about this card, and we thought we would make it a little bit more realistic. So we draw a random card. So now 26 episodes in, we've drawn 52 random cards plus when guests draw. So it's just a matter of talking for a couple of minutes about each of the cards. So
Sure.
yeah, thank you.
I just pulled a card here,
Yeah, please.
and now I'm pulling another card because I'm a more is more kind of person.
Yeah.
So
we love that.
You,
That's why I wanted to give us enough time to do that.
let's do more. Let's do more.
You-
So
yeah,
now,
you-
I want to
do as
run
many and
off
as
and
much
do
as you
some-
want.
some yoga and tarot. Oh, that's funny. I pulled this card this morning. So good. So we'll do those too.
I'm
All
gonna
right,
do the
perfect.
same. All right.
So do you want to start since you have your
Yeah,
cards,
please.
Allison?
Sure, sure. I pulled a card from this tarot deck, which I am been using. It's a newer deck. It's
Oh,
called
wow.
Curious Travels Tarot Deck by Amelia Rosier. It's so beautiful. I am just in love, love, love with this deck.
Mhm.
She's a very talented artist, creator. She did the art and the book, and the card I pulled is the Four of Wands. And I love how she illustrated
my.
it. So in the traditional card, it's like, the card of union and kind of the Four of Wands, like the coming together,
Mhm.
celebration. But I love how she illustrated it with the two bees. Um, so really showing collaboration and community and that kind of coming together, how the bees create, right? The bees create the hive, and then within the hive, everybody knows that they have a role in the hive, and that it's all for the greater good, and for that. And then of course the flowers that are growing out of that. So I love that symbolism of the bee. It really speaks to me. And that thing that we're creating in our life, that we want to have as a collaborative. Like we want to have people in there, and maybe so for me, this card really denotes that idea of like, creating the overall and having people and people coming in that want to be part of what I'm creating. That's kind of what it said to me as I pulled it. The card deck also has some I don't know if you can see it here. It's got some gold foil on the wings.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, I
yeah,
can
so
see that now.
yeah, so just intuitively, I feel like part of that is it's just like a message, maybe to the listener to go for it, to see yourself flying, to see yourself you know, coming together and creating that union with whatever it is that you're aligning to, whether it's your, in your personal life, your work life, or the new era, the new age that's coming, and then seeing yourself have those wings, right? It's like the phase of the creation, and then being able to fly within that. So,
That's
so that is the Four of the
fantastic.
Wands
What a
here. Yeah,
beautiful, for those who
That
are
is
listening,
beautiful.
Yeah.
it's a beautiful, beautiful visual card. So I think we'll probably put the link to the card, to the deck in the show notes, but
yeah,
it's stunning. And we can see as you move it, we can see the gold foil on the wings as well. That's, I love because with the wand's energy, that idea of movement, and yet it seems so effortless. It's like the wings are not moving at all. So
hmm
there's energy there, and that energy is being expanded, but it really gives that ability, like that meaning of stability to the energy, which is also an element of four. And it looks to me anyways, that's what it really does portray that nicely. It's a gorgeous card.
yeah,
Mhm.
Gorgeous.
And I love that too with the bees, right? Because sometimes when I see the Four of Wands, it's like celebrating how far you've come and all the work
hmm
that you've done up until this point. And I think so many times we're just focused on the end result, and we don't give ourselves the space or the time to really
Mhm.
celebrate what we've achieved so far. And seeing the bees, although they could be working, it's almost like they are like taking a moment just to sort of be in the moment and be like, basking in the sun and sort of enjoying each other's company. So I love that depiction of that card. It's gorgeous.
Exactly. And then the last piece I think whenever I see this is just the bee on the bottom who is just trusting, kind of
Mm,
trusting the universe, right? Trusting the energy to hold it. And I think that's a really good message for all of us right now in just trusting in this process, whatever we're seeing in the outer world, staying in trust and faith rather than, launching ourselves off, and knowing that, as we trust being, held up by the universe, that we will find that success and opportunity. So
It's beautiful. Now, can I ask a question about, because we've only
sure.
seen the one card, it looks like from the card there that the stems of the flower are representative of the wands, that there are four stems that are there. Is that common throughout the suit? Like, would the five of wands have five something, like whether there's flower
Yes.
stems or
So here's the Ten of
okay. Ten of
Pentacles.
Pentacles. Yeah.
And so it's
Wow.
got the pen. So she's used the symbol of the suit throughout. So just to give you a little bit, sorry, I know we were supposed to just be picking one card, but
No,
no,
no.
that's okay. Anything goes,
I'm
Allison.
giving
It's
a whole
okay.
preview
Totally.
here. But so it's really interesting because
Yeah.
there's really no like faces, but there's just a lot of beautiful symbolism in there,
Yeah.
to denote, the sword and the
Of
crown and
course.
those kinds of things. So,
Yeah.
and a
And even
lot
all
of
the air in the
animal,
background as well, right? You really get that
yeah, a
sense
lot
of
of
size,
animal
right?
imagery, just a lot of animal imagery, the
Oh
moon. So
my, there we go.
yeah,
My favorite
yeah,
card. Lovely.
yeah. So just good and inspiring for, expanding out of the known
Hmm.
archetypes, right? The images that
Hmm.
we know, and then being able to interpret through, having a different kind of imagery,
Yeah,
and maybe seeing something else, seeing something
but
a little
still
different.
giving an anchor to the card itself, right?
Hmm.
Like, it's not like looking at the moon look different from the Rider-Waite-Smith
Mm-mm.
moon. It's not like, the concepts of the Four of Wands weren't there either. The idea of stability and energy and the coming together with the two bees in the center of the card. You really get that sense of the meaning of that card, just done in a different way. Oh, we
Absolutely.
love seeing and hearing about different decks. So,
Well, we do
the
and we
more you,
don't
that's
because
well,
because now
because
what's going
that's
to
right.
happen?
Now you
Like, is
have to
that a
get
mass market deck, Allison? Is that readily available
it
for the
is,
public?
yes. Curious Travels. I think it's pretty brand new. It's only a couple, maybe a month or two old, and I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it's available in Canada yet, but you can,
Okay.
definitely can check
Well,
it out.
for our
So
American listeners, they'll be all
yeah.
excited then because they'll be able to get it. Yeah. Well, that's awesome. All right. Bonnie, do you want to draw? Or do you want me to? I mean, I've shuffled and I have a card ready, but
Okay, go ahead. I don't have my card yet.
oh, you don't have
I'm
your
so
card.
excited looking at this.
Well, I was shuffling, and then because I always, I like the process of shuffling the cards, to kind of get that energy into the cards. And then Allison, when you pulled yours, like I flipped my card, I just put it down and was fully engaged in what you were saying. So I grabbed a deck that I don't think I've used in the podcast before. So I have a few that I go to. I use the Fountain Tarot, which is Jason Gruel, Andy Todaro, and Jonathan Saltz, or Sace, I think, is the illustrator. And I drew the Nine of Coin. And so for those who can't see it, I'll describe it. It looks somewhat similar to the Rider-Waite-Smith, a woman standing in the center, and a real level of abundance in behind her. But what I'm drawn to is the growth of the abundance, the idea when we look at that Nine of Coins and to celebrate exactly where we've come, but what we've achieved and even what we've accumulated and what we've acquired. In the traditional deck, you have somebody standing in a garden that's surrounded by lushness, and nine kind of pentacles floating in behind them. This one here, the concentric circles really show that concept of growth. So there are nine pentacles, the center one being quite small and the end one being very large. So, I love the idea of this card saying, celebrate the Nine of Pentacles as an opportunity to celebrate in I guess in similar ways like the Four of Wands, but celebrating not only where you are, but what you've accumulated, what you've grown from that seed of that Ace of Pentacles all the way to the nine. And this card from the Fountain Tarot deck, really does a great job of highlighting that particular aspect of the Nine of Pentacles. So, there'd be the invitation again to celebrate where you've come, but also recognize, that you sometimes some of this accumulation comes from nothing or comes from very little. And what we've done is we've actually managed to manifest a significant amount of abundance through our work, which is that suit of Pentacles. So I don't know. That's all I got for this one. Anyone else?
Awesome.
It's nine of coins. So I guess this one uses the coins title. So anyways, that's the Fountain Tarot.
I love that. I love the Nine of Pentacles too, because it almost brings this aspect of celebrating. Again, it's kind of a theme here, like celebrating where you are. You've done all of this work and you're at this point now where you can sort of, pick the fruit and everything is abundant and lush, but also from a perspective of you can do it on your own as well, right? Like the sense of independence, not loneliness, but like it's okay to be on your own and appreciate the things in your life. So almost this idea of like, look how far I've come, celebrating the work that you've done personally and being okay with spending time with yourself too. So I often see that aspect with the nine of coins in this case. So Nine of Pentacles, but.
I love that. And so the only thing I will add on top of what you guys both summarized there is just the kind of divine feminine coming into, kind of rising up a bit and, being acknowledged. Like, it's okay to be, just as you said, appreciate how much you've gone through and see where you are. And I think that's becoming an overall message that we'll see, as we go forward, more and more of that energy.
Yeah, and something that's needed. I often, when I see this card as well, I think of what is one of my favorite decks, which is the Gaian Tarot by Joanna Powell Colbert. And in that, what she calls the Nine of Earth, which is the Nine of Pentacles, it's actually her image. She's standing in a field of lavender, and again, you really get that sense of the femininity of the card, but also the power that comes from that card as well. So I appreciate. Thank you for mentioning that too. It's almost like the little Empress, that card. Like it's it's like the Empress card of the minor arcana.
Yeah, what a great way to look at that, Peter.
So you've got a card too.
I do. Oh my God. We've been talking about this card for a while now. And I also pulled this card for myself this morning because I do my own practice as well, Allison. I pull 3 tarot cards. And lately I've been incorporating an oracle because I've accumulated a few more oracles. I think I might have told you that, Peter, that I got some new decks. So
no, you got new decks?
Not you.
Yeah, I know. It's so shocking. Okay, so I'm using the Dream Keepers Tarot from Liz Houston, and I actually watched your interview with her, Allison. She is lovely. I've been enamored by this deck. It was one of the decks I got earlier on when I started studying the tarot, and her interview was amazing, and her story. I loved her whole story of healing as she was creating this deck. So this deck holds a very special place in my heart. And the fact that you talked to her is pretty incredible. So the card I pulled is the King of Pentacles. So another Pentacles. I love this card, right? Like this guy's rich. He's like the richest king in the tarot. But what I love about this card is his generosity. And again, he's worked really hard to get to where he is. And we're talking about him as if he's a man. We're just using that as sort of an archetype here. But it's like what he's achieved so far, he's happy to share and be generous with other people and loving life. And using his resources for that, right? So like enjoying life and being okay with enjoying it, right? Like a lot of times we accumulate things and then we're afraid to use them or we're afraid to share them because we think we're going to lose them. But this king is basically telling you like enjoy where you are in life. Look at all of the abundance around you and give thanks for that and share that with other people that you really love. So I love the messaging of this card. I think he's like genuine and honest and And I want to be around the King of We were talking about if we had to go on a trip with somebody, we'd want to go with the King of Pentacles because he'd foot the bill. We'd fly first class and all of those wonderful things. But what I love about the Pentacles too, and with this card in particular, it's usually the last card in a tarot deck, right? If most times. And it kind of finishes the deck off with like, how do we view abundance and how do we give thanks for all of the things we have in our life? So we started with the Fool, we end with the King of Pentacles, and it's like we've done this entire journey. We're at the end now, and how can we give thanks for all of the things that we've gone through? And we wouldn't be where we are today without all of those experiences. And whatever we focus on really does become our reality. So it's a choice now. It's like we can make that decision to create the abundance in our life through gratitude. So I give thanks to the tarot
I love that.
That's fantastic.
and all of the messaging that comes with it. So what does everybody else think? What do you think about this King of Pentacles?
Well, Alison, I'll give you the last word. So, because I love everything that Bonnie said. The only thing, because the King of Pentacles, and to sort of shift it away from the King, and I think I've mentioned this before. I think of Taylor Swift. Funny enough, I think of the business side of what she does, and the reason it made me think of it even more is as we record this, Toronto, which is the major city that's closest to where we live, is about to enter the Taylor Swift, phenomenon. I think her first of 6 concerts starts either tomorrow night. We'll be in the middle of it when we drop this episode. We'll kind of be in the middle of that. And I think, this is someone who has been exceptionally successful, but has also been known to share her success with those who are around her, to share the material success. So I think I've talked about, Taylor Swift. If I was going to represent her in a tarot card, one of the ones I would consider would be the King of Pentacles, and simply because of that, that side of her. So that's the only thing I would add, that idea of sharing abundance and whatnot. Allison, what about you?
I love that. I mean, I mean, Taylor Swift, of course, she's doing it. She's
Mhm.
doing it in a very grounded, very successful, and kind of that male energy, which is, we know, is the solar energy, which is very direct, very confident, very strong. I love the King of Pentacles because whatever whatever we're referring to, sometimes we feel like those court cards are representing us, or somebody else in our life. But I love the energy of it because it's about being confident and being grounded at the same time. And that we kind of hit on that a bunch of times today, of like, we need to be here grounded to really create the things that we want to create. And so I feel like he has the last word. He's like coming in to say, yes, you can do it, go for it, but really, like, get your feet on the ground, and then, and then be confident in what and and come from your heart too, right? He's got that generous nature, as you say. So yeah, it's a nice 3-card reading, really.
Right. Yeah. Is it ever?
I think
Is
so.
it ever? Is it ever?
All
Yeah,
together.
that's right. I'd be thrilled if those were the 3 cards that, I pulled at any point in time. So
Yeah, I did
Exactly.
pull one last card before we close, and
yeah, of
because
course.
I can't help myself, and so it's an oracle card. So this is how I
Yay.
would. So I would just do 3 cards and then do an oracle, and so this is from the Infinite Wisdom of the Chakras, and it's card number 13. So it's a 4, and it's the Water Goddess. So she's kind of has an angelic vibration, right? Angelic feeling, and the message on the card. This is a sacral chakra. So it's really all about, emotions and, being in the flow. And the message is, our true nature embodies the ebb and flow of life's pleasure. And so I think it's really important also these days to know to, have that association and feeling that. As you said, Bonnie, like, we have to be enjoying what we've manifested, that, the pentacle energy, let ourselves enjoy it. And then also be in the flow of things, because the tide will rise and the tide will fall, and and this too shall pass. I'll say that as an American.
Yes.
That's all
And
I'll say about that. But This
And
gives
it's
me
fun.
hope. This is my card this morning too. I
Heard.
pulled it.
It gives you hope.
You've been
Yeah.
heard.
Okay, Allison, I know you have a lot of fun things on the go. And you do these amazing retreats. So before we leave, do you, number one, want to let us know what you have upcoming? Maybe some of the retreats that you're going to be leading, and then let us know where we can find you.
Sure. So, love to have anybody contact me. You can go to my website, which is simply my name, AlisonDeNicola.com, and see what's happening there. Or, Facebook friend me, or, tag me on Instagram. And I, answer all questions and inquiries. So happy to hear from people. I do lead intentional retreats. I will be going to Guatemala in January. That trip is full. We have a full boat on that. That's a kind of spiritual elemental retreat with the Mayan people on Lake Atilan. So it's a beautiful sacred site that we'll be going to. And then I'll be back at Kripalu at the end of February for a 3-day weekend with Sasha called Awaken Inner Magic. So you can go to the Kripalu website and check that out. Tarot and yoga, if you're curious about that and want to try it, we'd love to have you.
And it's awesome.
I'll be going to Glastonbury, England in June to commune with the goddess there and all of those incredible energies that are the tour and the white spring and red spring. And all of that information is on my website. So that's at Glastonbury, UK, Return to Avalon, a Sacred Avalon retreat. So if that speaks to you, the Mists of Avalon, or, that kind of otherworldly energy. And then in September, I'll be taking a group to Tuscany to find our bliss. So we'll be doing under the Tuscan sun there, yoga, meditation, sites, local sites, wine, of course, pizza, all the Italian things. And then more to come next year, Costa Rica, possibly Bali, and a few other Portugal, a few other things in the works that I'm so if you want to just dip in, you can keep track of what I'm up to. And back to Kripalu next summer for another 5-day Craft Your Destiny retreat that will be happening in the summer. That's where we met. So yeah, so thanks for asking. Yeah.
Thank you. And look, thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. We had what a wonderful experience from our end. I'm positive that those who are watching and listening will have equally a wonderful experience. We'll learn so much both about you and about all of the systems that you work with. So, I just want to say a huge thank you from, on my part, and then on the part of our watchers and listeners
Thank
too.
you guys. It was a pleasure. It was great to speak with you. It's great to see you. And for those listening, it was really a true pleasure for me to be here. So thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Yay.
Yay.
Awesome.
All right. On
Awesome.
that note, then I guess on behalf of all of us, we'll wish everyone a wonderful day, and hopefully we'll see you again next week on the next episode of Tarot with Bonnie and Peter. So long, everyone.
Bye.